Hello and welcome to another episode of Broadway and Other Kiwi Dreams, a podcast exploring the lives and minds of theatre practitioners in and around the New Zealand performing arts industry. My name is James Shearer and I am so excited to be recording an episode again. It has been over a year since I last uploaded an episode, and in that time I've told people that I have a podcast, and I'm just excited for that to actually be true. So let's get into it. Today we have the one and only Rutene Spooner, which I'm so excited about. Rutene is pushing the boat out in terms of combining Māori storytelling with traditional Broadway-style musical theatre. In this episode, we have conversations about going from Kapa Haka to one of the most prominent performing arts schools in the country. We talk about raising a child as a performer in the middle of a pandemic. And we get some behind-the-scenes antics from the set of the hit movie Whale Rider. So, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, enjoy a conversation with Rutene on Broadway and Other Kiwi Dreams. Let's go! How's the little one? She doing well?
She's good. She's doing good. She's hanging out, doing some painting, I think.
Doing some painting.
But you might hear her in the faint distance.
Nice. I look forward to it. Is she talking now? I don't know, baby thresholds.
She's gobbledygooking. No, that's all right. She's gobbledygooking and she's saying words, but she's not holding conversation at the moment. But she's at a stage where she is trying to communicate every other way. So she's really wanting to talk. And my partner, she's like, I wanted to talk,
I want to know what you want.
Encourage her to talk. Yeah, totally. And you can't help but go, oh, what's everyone else's kids doing, at this age? But babies bilinguals, and that usually means they take a little longer because they have to grasp the concepts, in both languages.
Yeah.
So I'm like, she'll talk when she wants to. Yeah. And I have a feeling this particular kid, once she does talk, there'll be no shutting her up.
Yeah, absolutely. She's running around everywhere and stuff.
Yeah. So I'm just like enjoying the peace at the moment.
Yeah. What peace you can get.
Yeah, totally.
So my first question for you, Rutene, is what is your favorite musical?
Ooh, that's a good question. My favorite musical is I'm old school. I'm pretty old school at heart, and I know there are quite a few old school musicals that in a present day context can be quite problematic.
Sure.
But I'm old school. I'm a traditionalist, and so I love West Side Story.
Sure.
That is my show. I've got so many of my mates who are chasing the latest musicals, and they're all really great. But as soon as I hear that score, particularly that overture, it's so good.
Looking forward to the movie coming out.
And I really saw a bootleg of the the Broadway revival where all the scenes, all the scenes that could were spoken in Puerto Rican.
Oh yeah.
No, sorry, in Spanish. Yeah. All those Puerto Rican scenes were spoken in Spanish, and because we know the musical so well, we could just clock it, and if you didn't speak Spanish, Kate Pai, you just watch body language, listen to the intonation of the music, and then you were in it. And that, for me, I go, that was an aha moment. So it actually inspired me to start making bilingual children's theatre.
Sure.
When I saw that revival of West Side Story, and don't quote me on when it was the one I'm talking about. It's this is a few years ago. But it goes, you can take a classic and still bring it back into bring it into the present day. You just have to really hone in on the purpose. It was cool. So I love that musical. That's my long waffly way of saying I love West Side Story. I love that whole Romeo and Juliet kind of storyline, and the songs are just stunning. And then they originated the mashup. With there's the I call them the song where they all sing lines of their tune.
Yeah.
And you got 4 songs coming at once. It's just like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's my favorite.
Nice. So, jumping way back, and maybe this is a spoiler for Thoroughly Modern Maui, but tell me about Blake.
Yeah, no, totally. Blake is actually my legal name. And so I kind of, how Beyonce has Sasha Fierce for a positive and affirmation. Blake is like another version of me that is like a default.
Yeah.
But not, well, yeah, it's kind of like a default in the sense that when I first started writing, and you just go sketch and write something, I kept reading it back and I'm like, oh, I sound like a cis middle-aged white male, blue-collar male. Like, why is this? And but yeah, Blake is my real name, and Blake is I would say the Pākehā side of me that I do embrace. And it also is my government name. So when I hear it, I run.
Yeah. And then Rutene was your aunt?
Rutene was so, well, my grandmother, she was, she was matriarch of our family, and where she had her kids on the west coast in Taranaki. And she decided, because the language, it was that stage of revitalizing te reo Māori, and so she decided to move her family all the way over to the east coast, where it was humming and where it was in full flight. So she uprooted her entire family to this place, and she had no direct whakapapa links to the east coast anyway. And so I was born around that time, and I'm a product of kura kaupapa Māori and kohanga reo and that revitalization of te reo Māori.
Yeah.
And my grandmother denied the name Blake.
Sure.
And so she named me Rutene. And it just was one of those things that, my poor mother had made, because Blake belongs to my great uncle, who was, the man. But my poor mum was overridden by my grandmother by naming me Rutene. And then, and I lived a life of, it wasn't until I was prepped to go to high school, actually leaving high school, where I realized, oh gosh, I now have an alias.
But a stage name.
A stage name, yes. A stage name that very few people know how to spell or pronounce. Yeah. But I am, I embrace both names, both sides to me. And,
I read that you started performing in Kapa Haka. That's where you got you started your performing side of you.
Yeah, I growing up on the East Coast, really, really fortunate to be around some greats and being taught by some greats in that realm of Māori performing arts. And so at the end of high school, I met a drama teacher. As it's like many people's story, they find a drama teacher says, hey, you should do this, and bada bing, bada bom, you're in showbiz. But I did start in Kapa Haka, and it was one of those things that started quite young, because it essentially, Kapa Haka is a way of retaining information, retaining genealogy, retaining traditions. And so it was just kind of part of the thing as you did growing up as your kids. And then at intermediate started performing in the public. And I had a teacher who really put our class out there just to kind of feel what it's like to be in front of an audience. Then that kind of transferred at high school, performing at national level, and kind of being out and about. And then at when I was 16, where I met Julie Radici, who's my old drama teacher, and she said, "Why don't you come and?" Because I was originally when I moved when I got to high school, I was like, "Yeah, I'll try this drama thing." I was a bit of a class clown, And so I'll try this drama thing. And I tried out for the Shakespeare schools, and I thought I was cool, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna be great. You're gonna be great. This is perfect for you." And then I ended up, and then I got a role as the Rock, and I rock. And I was like, "Oh, what is that?" And basically, we were warm set pieces, and so like for a good quarter of, and those kind of Shakespearean school pieces, they're quite short, right? Yeah. So for a good 70% of the time, I was like hunched over like a rock so that some of the lead cast could sit on me, and so I was like, this isn't, drama's not for me. See you later. I'm back to Hakas. Yeah. But it wasn't until I was 16 I ended up in the production of Hair.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we didn't do the naked scene at high school. Yeah. But that was the first time where I could feel what it was like to be on stage, not in a grass skirt, not in that context. And it felt cool, it felt good. It felt normal.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we did another musical. We did West Side Story, the following year. And then, so yeah, it's that 16, 17, 18, I auditioned for NASDAQ.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was it. And so when I got to drama school, I was playing big catch up compared to the people next to me who were, who lived and breathed it, who were in competitions, dance competitions, singing competitions, all that sort of stuff. And I had never ever taken a singing lesson in my life. Yeah. But I owe my start to Kapa Haka.
Yeah.
100%. Now I try and stay connected to that and contribute to that world, and I'm proud member of Te Kapa Haka o Whangara Mai Tawhiti.
Yeah.
And so yeah, still trying to keep when I left school, it felt like I had two worlds that I was stepping into.
Mm-hmm.
There was like the Kapa Haka world and the Tikanga Māori world, and then there was the showbiz musical theatre world. And for a number of years, I think until I kind of got to like 28,
yeah.
I'm 32 now, I was playing them individually.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I was around late 20s where I decided I can try and bring those two worlds together.
Sure.
Somehow, and try and walk them at the same time, as opposed to, because there was a point there where I didn't run away, but I took a sabbatical from Kapa Haka
mm-hmm.
and all of that, so I could really investigate what musical theatre and what entertaining was about in showbiz.
Yeah.
And I feel like now we're making this comeback together,
yeah.
which is nice.
And it's amazing. So before we get to NASDA and stuff, and maybe as a transition into it, were you in Whale Rider?
My only IMDb credit.
I saw that and I was like, is this another Rutene? I was like,
no, it is me.
It is you.
See, I was it was exactly around that time, like I was at intermediate, so I was going, oh, what is drama? We were doing like skits and plays. It's like short plays at intermediate
mm-hmm.
at Waikirikiri, and so I that's another reason why I thought I'd be good for Shakespeare's in schools. And I was like, yeah, I got this because I've been in a movie.
This is an Academy Award nominated movie that I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, I had one line, but
yeah.
I had one line in the movie, but it's like a national treasure.
Yeah.
How can I not? And anyway, but yeah, I auditioned for that when it was my first actually ever audition.
Mm-hmm.
My dad got it through, somehow got the audition notice, and he acted as my agent at that time, negotiating my contract and all that sort of stuff.
Was he in that?
He's in it as well, yeah.
Yeah.
So he plays my dad.
Oh, wow.
Well, as an extra.
Yeah, yeah.
There's one scene super noticeable. He's this big dude with the ball head and like a light blue, baby blue polo shirt. Anyway, we got the notice. I auditioned, and then they pulled me back the next day they were doing callbacks. Well, now I know what they are, but they were callbacks, and I ended up becoming their reader as they were auditioning for Hear Me. So they knew I wasn't right for that Hear Me role, the leader of the pack.
Yeah.
But they used me as a reader for the next following day. So, I mean, you know, in hindsight, I'm like, I knew I was going to be a part of it. I just didn't know how. Yeah, it's such a cool opportunity for a kid who's 10, 11, I think I was at this stage. I think the movie came out when I was 12. But it's such a cool environment to be a part of, you know, and they really looked after us really well. And so the Kapa Haka group that I am still committed to come from that village.
Right.
So it's all
full circle.
Yeah. And so some people don't know this, I don't know. We had Keisha, right? So we had a pie and a Hear Me. Keisha and who ended up playing? Oh, Manato Mahoney. And we had two lead children kids cast before them. And so we rehearsed with them, and then all of a sudden we had these new leads, and we're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, it was such a cool experience to know how you, like, you know, cheat stuff, you know, when we, you know, as a kid, like how you're getting close to movie magic.
Yeah.
And, you know, fake whales and all this sorts of stuff. And the way, and the time that the crew took to kind of explain that to a 10-year-old kid, you know, you're like, why is there a barrel here on the back of a trailer, on the back of a boat, and the top looks like a whale? It's like, oh, well, they won't see the whale, so it's her riding on it. And it's like, oh, mind blowing. So,
magic.
Yes, that was way back in the day. And it's so much so that it's not on my, I mean, it's IMDb, I get it, but it's not on my performer's CV.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like I can claim it. It's so many moons ago.
Yeah, sure. That's so fun. Like, when I saw that, I was like, really? I've seen that movie.
Totally. And for years and years, people were like, say your line. Say your line. And I was like, well, do you know, actually, I originally had no lines in the movie. But then one of the boys, Tenia, is his real name. I can't remember what his character name was. He's the smallest boy in the pack. It was supposed to be his line, but he was too young to be in the boat without a life jacket.
All right.
So, yeah. so the day before, they rang my agent, Dad, and they said, oh, he's got one line. Bubba's got a cold and I can't swim. And I don't know how to play it. And Nikki Caro said, just play it. Just be really, really honest. And so that was like a first hint of like the comedy and straight up honesty. I didn't know it was going to be it's supposed to be relatively funny, like a little giggle line, not a ha-ha line, but a giggle line. But she asked me to play it honestly.
Right.
Which is fun. But if you look at that scene, there's a I'm wearing this kind of like a teapot, this little headband thing. And that's 100% a result of Rutene taking the piss. And so when we were on the beach, the boys were playing around, I took the headband off a hat that we'd been given to, be sun smart, and just walked around and was playing, I was playing Maoris running along the beach, and we were all cracking up. And then we got called, and and I jumped in the boat, and I was like, oh no, sorry, I've got this on. I'm so sorry. And Nikki goes, no, keep it on.
Be true to it.
Yeah, be true to it. So every time I watch it, I'm like, there is an early sign of the clown.
Nice. And the clown's costume.
Yeah, 100%.
Before we move on to NASDA, another theatre-related question, which is, what is your dream role to play?
Oh, that's a tricky one, eh? What is your dream role? Like, does it have to be a role that you're actually suited to, or?
Well, that is another.
Like, because
is another question that I have, which is miscast roles. So it comes later.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. I'm jumping the gun again. I don't know. I've had when I was younger, I had like a hit list of roles that I wanted to play. Yeah, so I don't think there's one role that. Oh, actually, no, there is. There is one role that I've always wanted to play, But on that 5 list, there's Nicely,
Mm-hmm.
who I haven't played yet. There is Amos Hart, which I have played.
Yeah.
And there was Gary Coleman, and I can't remember what the other ones. But I think the role that I reckon I'd love to play, and I reckon I'm like half decent for it, and that's the Kumara talking for its own sweetness there. But the genie in Aladdin,
Absolutely,
is and so when that consortium, those amateur rights hit Aotearoa, call me up, operatic societies, I'm there.
Yeah, everywhere across the country.
Yeah. I mean, there's the musical itself doesn't move me, but the role, I'm like, I could totally do that. I remember when I saw it at the Civic, I was like, yeah, no, I could totally do that.
I can see it.
Yeah, I saw it at the Civic, and then like I had a callback audition in Melbourne, and the guy who was playing the genie here in Civic, we were both in the same callback, and and I was so like fanboying. I was like, oh my god, there's the genie.
Yeah.
There's the genie. A little did I know, after the audition, he was doing the same thing. He was like, I saw you in Jersey Boys.
Oh, really?
And I was like, we're both fanboying each other. But, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Did you see the version that came to the Civic? Or the recent version, actually does.
Did, I think.
Aussie.
Yeah, I think I saw it with my family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good time. Good family.
Yeah, I can definitely see that role. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. So, Nasda, in general, how was that experience for you?
I'd love to know what other people have said, but look, I think, now I made it sound like it was a bad thing. No, it was 100% an eye-opener for me. Yeah. Like I didn't know what was up. I was so young and naive and so super fresh. But I think I've always said that, like, the actual learning for me started when I graduated, when I finished.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it actually kind of, where the transformer was like connecting.
Yeah.
But I could never been there without those foundations that place gave me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And saying that I had also, worked with, in my earlier stages, my, emerging career, I was working with a lot of people from different training institutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to tap in. We did a lot of sharing of what we had, just learned.
Yeah.
A lot of sharing of skills, which was really handy. I think that's the biggest thing that I wish somebody had told me then, was this way that you've learned is not the only way.
Mm.
And I don't think they didn't say that to me, but it wasn't clear to me until I left. That go, oh, okay. I remember the first gig I did outside of Christchurch. So I finished early. I finished the degree a little bit early and went and interned at the Court.
Yeah.
And then did some musical. And then after that, I got a gig up here in Auckland, doing a kids show. Yeah. And I had struggled really. Really struggled with my director. He was so kind and considerate in hindsight, but I really struggled with him because I just couldn't understand what he wanted, and I couldn't understand how I could give him what he wanted. All I knew was what I was doing prior. And so, like, everything I got from their place, I'm very grateful for. That's the only one thing I wish I had been given was a clear indication that you're going to continue to learn after this, and the way you work is not necessarily the way everyone else works.
Yeah.
I had this kind of tunnel vision thinking that, it was like everybody works the same as us, and everybody, and it's not necessarily the case. But I think the current students now that's quite clear to them.
Mm.
I was on the advisory board for NASDA for a wee while there, making sure that we can, that people can walk away with their ticket, proudly and equipped for the industry. Yeah, so I think that's my long waffly way of saying I think that my time at NASDA was really valuable, and I think that every drama or institution has its pitfalls.
Yeah,
but I think it's what you take out of it, eh?
Yeah,
and I'm so grateful for what I learned there. And it still comes up, pops up now. I've been out of drama school. I graduated in 2009. In some of those lessons,
Yeah.
But definitely continues. It's kind of like changes. Like you get given this block from NASDA and go, sweet, this is how you learn the block. Sorry, this is how you work with the block. And then you go out to the world, like you finish up and you go out to the world and you meet these other carvers, per se, and they help you carve this block. And that block is like becomes you and how you work. And so I'm really grateful for that block. Because I've met some really cool carvers along the way who've really changed the direction for me.
Yeah.
And
and
sorry, I waffled on that one a little bit.
No, absolutely. I think it is very important to like get those other carvers, as you say, because like when I was in first year, you came in and took our theatre and education block. Like that was when I first met you, and that experience definitely, because I did, you as well did Playhouse after NASDA, and I definitely took like teachings that you gave us through that experience into the Playhouse thing. So yeah, it's very important to get other voices and other people coming in and teaching you. Okay, now dream miscast role.
Oh gosh, miscast role. Oh, that's a tricky one, eh? That is such a tricky one, miscast role, because it could be anything. And I for a long time I took pride in singing, snatching those, because I feel like, this is a bit of a side thought, but I feel like a lot of the time the ladies get like not the better songs, but they get so many good songs. In the shows that I was like, and people are going to fight me and be like, well, the men get continuous roles and blah blah blah. But I just think I'm like, for a long time I would steal I'd steal like the Baker's Wife songs from the Baker's Wife and do that and do Meadowlark. I don't know. I'd love to have a go at not for seriousness, but like I'd love to have a go at Effie from Dreamgirls. And people might be thinking, he's a bit big-headed for thinking he can tackle that vocally, but I think it's less about the vocal and more about the attitude. Like she's just like full of sass, and that would be quite fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that, and I'd like to do some kind of miscast role. Like I'd love to play Maria from West Side Story. And like I did this cabaret show for the Tairāwhiti Arts Festival, and because it was just like, I think it was like songs from shows or one of those, terribly generic cabarets. Anyway, I could sing all my basically I sang songs that I want to do, but I broke down for the audience why I love it and why I love the art form of musical theatre, and they loved it. Anyway, I sang I Have a Love. There's a couple of titles for it, but it's when Anita and Maria do that duet. I have a love and it's all that I need later on. And I sang both voices. And I was just like, it was real fun. So that's another miscast role I'd love to do.
Nice.
Because she's a beautiful lyrical soprano and I am not.
So moving through to career, so we said like your first kind of foray into the world was interning at the court, which, as you said, was like building on that block of learning from NASDA. So how was that transitioning into the court world?
It's interesting. Someone's asked that recently, and I can be really honest now because I've worked for that place for a long time. But that's what it was. I wrote one of our lovely wardrobe ladies who had been working for the court for 20 years had resigned, and I wrote a letter to be read at her farewell Poroporoaki morning tea. It was kind of acknowledging her that her and that wardrobe team were a safe space for me as a young drama student who felt out of place. I can speak like this now because it's not necessarily like that how it was.
Sure.
I can speak like this now because I can share this to the leaders, like to their face, and now. But at the time, it was tricky. It was hard, you know. It's like, and I'm not trying to be like, woe is me, play a little violin, but just like super fresh drama student in a well-oiled machine. And then that was the court theatre of the time where they had a core company for the year.
Yeah.
Right. They had a core company for the year, and back-to-backing was a thing where you would rehearse a show during the day and do one at night. Yeah. Or you were like John O'Martin and doing the kids' show during the day and then doing a show at night, and it was like work.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to fit in. It was hard to feel like you fit in.
Sure.
Which is disheartening in the sense that too, because you go, I've been, you know, I know a lot of us who study those institutions go, you know, like, finally I found my place, or I found my people, and I finally finished, and then I had so many great friends in there and made some lifelong friends while I was there in that internship. But I was like, I still feel like an outsider here. I still feel like an outsider, like one of the only Māori in the building, one of the, you know, like the only youngest, and for a lot of it, and a lot of them like didn't remind you, but you definitely felt like you were the new young buck.
Yeah. And
so I will always remember those who never made me feel like anything less than everyone else. Cool. In the institute. But it was tricky, but you sucked it up, right? And so I kind of I went there. I did the kids show. I played Mother Duck, a pivotal role in my career, and then I went on to do Anything Goes, which again I played the only, like, all the other sailors, right? All the other sailors, and they've got the costume like drawings. Elizabeth Whiting, amazing costumier, and I love her. And really lovely person. They've got the drawings on the wall at the Court Theatre, and all of these sailors are in their costumes, and my sailor costume is the only dirty one.
Oh, no.
And it's because my sailor is below deck.
Yeah.
And my sailor is the mechanic. But it was also like really, really lovely because, you know, I'm larger in life, both in personality and physicality, and people underestimated me, and I ended up having a tapping solo in my first thing, and I don't know, it was a different time then. I think that's probably the biggest thing to say. It was a different, like I sound like an old, I sound so old, but like, it was a different time there, and I think it's not like, back in my day, but there was like a crossroads of what our industry was and what our industry is now. And I think that same crossroads is happening today. It's like the way we work, people are wanting to try and do better. Yeah. But I moved on from there, and I worked so much kids theatre, you know, so much, and toured a lot of kids theatre. Which was really good, you know, like for me, I was like, yeah, cool. I'm on the road. I'm living on the road life. I remember, some of my mates, you know, like, kind of turning their nose up at it and then going, there's a history of making people, you know, OTT actors and all that sort of stuff. But for me, man, I learned so much on like how to read audience and read space.
Yeah.
I actually credit a lot of my, cabaret interactions to my kids' theatre. Not that, you know, I'm treating everyone like kids, but like being able to quickly read the room. Yeah. Being able to quickly, and also walk into a space and be like, cool, that's going to, you know, this is going to cause issues. You know, like, I don't know. I think those opportunities I'm so grateful for them. But there was a strong few years where I think I performed for all but all but two children's theatre companies in the country. Yeah. And then finally got my break, you know, and I think that's I was talking to one of my I'll call him a mate who's a super new grad or on his way out, and I'm like, and just kind of explaining to, you know, saying to him, yeah, took a while for me to get my break. I think I got my break in 2014, 13. but you got to do the hard yards.
Oh,
you got to chuck in you got to do the foundational things. As you know, I mean, you did the marathon of tours.
Oh, yeah. Yep. All around the country. Yeah. And luckily just before COVID, so. That break, is that Jersey Boys? Is that what you consider?
Oh, no, I just think, I think I was touring, actually, and I got rang in to do a couple of shows for Showbiz, one of the shows for Showbiz. And from that, I got a call from Ross.
Sure.
Saying, do you want to come and do Grease?
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, sweet. Yes, great. I'd love to. So I went back to look at the cast recording, and I was like, I don't know what else is on here. Like, I wouldn't be one of the T-Birds because. Yeah. And so I was like, so maybe, and that's the one, that was the cast recording where Billy Porter is Teen Angel. And so I was for like a couple of weeks, I was like, because he didn't tell me what role I was playing. For a couple of weeks, I was like, I think I'm Teen Angel because and so I was looking at like Beauty School Dropout, and I'm like, back then I could hit those notes, those Billy Porter notes. And I was like, okay, sweet, I'm okay with it. And then he was like, oh, no, you play Roger. And I was like, cool. Went straight to the movie. And I was like, there's no Roger in the movie. But yeah, and then it kind of like, it rolled on from there. And then I became, I was at the court for quite a little while, actually, doing the summer shows. And actually, yeah, and then I did a couple of plays and yeah.
So then Jersey Boys, I guess, was that your first kind of foray into Australian theatre, or?
Yeah, it was my first Australian. Yeah, someone was saying, "Oh, it's your international debut," and I was like, "I wasn't. I was already touring internationally, but it was my first interaction with a Tony Award-winning director, and so." But it was my first Aussie contract. And even that was pretty like buzzy experience, If you go back to like drama school and they're like, your auditions are going to be like this and they're going to be like this. And then you like live the life and your mates talk about their auditions and they're like, yeah, and we did this and then this. And you build it in your head going, oh, what is it going to be like? And I remember that audition, I was flying over for the initial and it was like some cheap ass red eye flight.
Classic.
And yeah, and I was like, you just got to do you, Rich. You just got to do you. If they don't like you, then it's not you.
Yeah.
It's just that you're not right for the role. The audition process was cool and short and sharp, actually. And they had already announced it. I can't remember when I auditioned. A few months after they had announced the cast, they were still looking for the role of Barry Balson. So I went over there, got through the first day, and asked to come back for the dance school the next day. And I was like, oh, fuck. And then they said, oh, you come back for the dance school? And I was like, yes. And then they said, and please come back in your suit. And I was like, fuck. I ain't dancing in a suit. And so we did 4 rounds. So like 4 rounds of 45 minutes.
Wow. Like cuts each time or in the audition?
No. So like, I think the first 2 rounds. Yeah. I think there were like 2 rounds cut.
Yeah.
But so the first round everyone stayed, second round everyone after the second round cut, third round cut, fourth round cut. And oh mate, I was like, I think I was making a kids show for the court at the time. And so I was like not necessarily stage fit, but I got there and I was like, oh, I haven't done 4 hours of bloody dance in a long time. But I remember just giving it all. And I remember giving it all and then going downstairs waiting to hear whether I'd kind of gone on to the next stage or not. And going to check my phone, it was plugged in to be charged, and my hand just shaking. Like my body's just like, what are you doing? This is too much activity. Yeah, but it was cool. And then come home and we snapped it up. And I was over there roughly for a year, and come back to Aotearoa to have my baby.
Yeah. And also to start doing some one-man shows.
Yeah. That I had dabbled in it. I made a show called Superhuman before I left.
Right.
And that was just me going, hello, Auckland. I hadn't been in Auckland for too long. And I realized, all right, like, no one knows who I am here other than my mates, like in my flatmates and stuff like that. I was like, no one knows who I am here. I had just done Billy Elliot with Auckland Theatre Company, but there was like, no one else was. That was on. I went out and auditioned for that, and Colin was like, who are you? And anyway, we ended up in it. First ever Polynesian Big Davy, which is nice. And after that, and so I was like, I need something to people, almost like a showcase number. I just needed Auckland to go, I've moved here. I can do these things. And so I wrote this show that professed my love for Hugh Jackman and put it on the basement and thinking it would just go, sweet, we'll make it. I mean, I just finished doing a gig with Jennifer Ward Leland, so I was like, sis, can you help a brother out? Can you come and direct him?
Yeah.
Like in hindsight, it's like got her, and then had John Verright, who did us a favor and come in to help kind of form what the set might feel and look like.
Yeah.
Put it up and I was like, sweet, 4 days, boom. And then after those 4 days, it just kind of kept going and going.
Yeah.
And that got put on hold. And then I went to go and do Jersey Boys, and I came back, and then I took Superhuman overseas.
Yeah.
But you're right. Going back a little bit after I come back home, I decided it was time to. I dodged producing work. I dodged it for so long. I was like, I don't really want to do that. But I decided that I don't know. I don't want to make this the daddy story or that sort of stuff. But when you have a child, your focus becomes a little clearer. Everything that matters is a lot clearer, and everything that doesn't just kind of falls off.
Sure.
And so, and I go, I'm good at a particular thing. I can't necessarily go out and build my child a house, but I can try and do things within my world that I want to benefit her or the world that she will grow up in. And so I started going, cool, Roots, like you've been making work, that's cool, blah, blah, blah. But now it's time for you to like make, that conversation you wanted to talk about there. Sweet. Now you can lean into it hard. Because, time's ticking. But also it's like, this is the chance then. And so like, if you're going to make I said to myself, if I'm going to make my own work, then I'm going to try and lean in with the elbow a little hard. I've made a couple of things, and most recently I made a show called Thoroughly Modern Maui, and that leans into some pretty serious topics for me anyway, and pretty serious conversations that I've, for many years kind of just kept to myself or my immediate circle. Yeah. Whereas now that becomes some of the pillars of my work. I mean, I love playing in this cabaret world, and I also think that it's the prime spot to be having full-on conversations.
Oh, yeah.
And especially, I think, too, that I like to try and make something, if it's got hard conversation, you still have, like, the audience are still guests, so you still have to hold them with care. And so, like, how we talked about that full circle thing, I go back and go, oh, that's a foundation that I was taught in the world of Kapa Haka, is like taking care of those people who come to see you and you perform, and also that thing of where there's dark, there's always light. Yeah. And so like I like to have these conversations in the most playful way. And so that's how I gravitated towards cabaret.
And I think you'd walked that line really well in Thoroughly Modern Maui, like with having those tough conversations, but keeping it light and keeping it comedic. And I took my parents to it, as you know. They're like the epitome of upper middle class white people, and they loved it. Like it appealed to so many different things. Like the Rutene song in it is a country song. Like it was so good. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the kind of thing that I want to make, is like, oh, I'm in the mode at the moment of making stuff that goes here. This isn't like a sharp tool, but it is something to say, let's try and change the way we think, work, and act. But also love just like pure entertainment as well. Yeah. Like I think that's really, there's still a place for that. There's still a place for that. I can't say it's the easiest way to make, you're finding you want to make something and you go, okay, I want to talk about this topic, but I want to bury it. Yeah. I'm going to bury it so that it just becomes, so that they can dig it up themselves, not just throwing it in their face. Yeah. That takes hard work. Yeah. Totally. That's hard work. Because it's like head work, which can get a little tiresome sometimes. But I mean, as long as I'm telling myself this, as long as you keep honing onto the purpose, it's fine. And I had some really cool collaborators on that particular show. And then that's the biggest thing I think one of the biggest things that I've learned. I was saying this just the other week. It's like you surround yourself with people who are better than you, and you will level up. Yeah. You will level up. And I've been lucky in the stuff that I've made myself. I had some really cool people and really skilled people to work with. Sure. And so you're gonna work hard. You're gonna work hard to really carve out that piece of work. Yeah. For Maui, I had, it was led by Matariki Whataro, who I've got an existing relationship with the Modern Māori Quartet. We toured for years, and we both watch cabaret together, when we're overseas, and we both we both have pretty big conversations on Māori theatre and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And then had like great production team and great band, I think that's, one of the key things that I've learned thus far is like, get cool people around you. Not only cool as in like good, decent humans, but also like who are better than you, who are ways and more skilled with. Yeah. Because it makes you level up, but it also humbles you too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like it's called a one-man show, but it's really not a one-man show, eh?
100%. Yeah. So 100%. Like, and I've been saying that since Superhuman. I'm like, it's a one-man show. It says a one-man show. You only come and watch one man, but it is like total iceberg. And, for example, Superhuman, I don't have an accompanist on stage with that one. My accompanist is my operator.
Is the operator,
like the timing has to be, the timing has to be right with lights and sound and tracks. It's like, and it's the same with Maui, the band, like they are just as much living and breathing. Yeah. They are not just warm set pieces. They are not just rocks on the stage.
Speaking of full circle. That actually ties in nicely to a listener question that I got, which is from Matthew Hatton, who I believe is currently at NASDA. Not sure what year, or that's just what it says on his Instagram. Which is, where do you start when writing a show?
That's a really good question, eh? I remember when I was invited to sign up to a play market as a writer, I go, I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
Can I have another title? Because even to this day, I go, I write enough to get on the floor. That tells me one thing, and that tells me that you don't have to have all the answers at once, Sure. Like, because often you want to see the product, and you got to dream big. But that was scary for me, scary to go, oh, I've got to try and be a writer. Yeah. No, you can just be a theatre maker. I remember Alice Canton, she was having that discussion with herself, I think, around how she, from her podcast, actually, I think I heard it, but what she tells the muggles in the real world, when they say, oh, what do? You say, I'm a theatre maker. So I think that's key when you're remembering what to make, it's like, however, because it goes, if you're a theatre maker, you can go about it however you want.
Yeah.
There are obviously there are techniques on how to do it. And if this person is, what was their name?
Matthew, yeah.
If Matthew is at drama school, there are some of my favorite, and I think some of our best theatre makers teach there. Holly Chappell, Eason, and Tom Eason, in terms of devising and stuff like that. But I'm fearful of giving the advice, and it's like, because there's so much great advice out there on how to get started. But I think the easiest one is to go, what's your idea? What's the kaupapa? And what do you want? What are the audience taking away from it? Those are the key things, because the reality is no idea has never been done before. Yeah. So I remember picking up a tip from Alice Canton and saying cover banding, finding something that you think is similar to what you're trying to make.
Yeah.
Because they would have, that's the wheel, right? And you don't have to reinvent that wheel.
Yeah.
I think the key things to remember is like the kaupapa. And kaupapa is such a broad thing, but it's going, okay, what do you want to make? But also, why are you making it? Why are you making it? And also, those people, who are you making it for? And what are they taking it home to do? Those, I think, are usually the 4 questions I ask of people who are making something. Because those are the, like, walls of your work. They're the parameters. And then you can just kind of sketch within that realm. Certain people sketch differently, like, I know when I'm writing music, I write the lyrics, get an idea of the rhythm of those words, and then go away, write the music and the tune, and then come back and marry those two together. But then I know some people who write the music first and then fit the words to it. And I know some people who write the word, so it's like everyone's got their own approach to making the work. But I think if you put your flag post in and going, this is who, they're like kind of like the who, what, when, where, why, how. And that can be hard. I find it really hard. But I think also you can also alter it. Like I think I know when I first started making, I go, sweet, I'm making for this. I'm making with this in mind, and I want them to take home this. And that can change throughout the process. Your walls can change, but you need that up there. But purpose is a huge one, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge one that because then you can be like really, you can have real fun on how you can bring that purpose home. And I think we talked about it earlier, how far you bury it.
Yeah.
For the audience to dig up.
So we've talked a little bit about fatherhood. And I know we don't want to make this, the daddy podcast, but it is a part of your life. And
totally.
And how is it raising her in COVID times? Obviously, you don't know any different, but do you think it's been more beneficial?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. We don't want to make it the Papa podcast, but it totally is, like you said, 100% a rudder in how I work now.
Yeah.
I mean, when we got pregnant, the first people I was to lean on were all my friends who were either having babies or have had babies, but were performers. Because I go, how do we make this work? I was in Australia. I had the last end. I think it was our Brisbane end of the tour to go back to. But so while I was there, I was asking all of those. We had like a 6-month-old baby on tour with us. So I was like really getting in how to do it as performers, because it's doable. And I was actually just talking to Amy Straker this morning, who's a accomplished and actress, Christchurch-based actress, and incredible human being. And we often talk about how to be performers and parents. And we were talking about, reflecting on what it's like for our kids. I mean, it's a strange world for everybody, but it's a strange world for our kids who are being used to like sanitizing hands.
Yeah.
Used to their parents wearing masks. Like my kid now likes to wear a mask. She doesn't, it's not advised that she wears one, but she sees her mum and dad wearing them, so she wants to wear one. And the other day she was on a Zoom. We were on a Zoom with her kohanga reo, her preschool, and she was like just lit up.
Yeah.
seeing all her friends online and I'm like, and I was talking to Amy this morning, and I said, that is, our babies are the generation of sanitizer, masks, and Zoom.
Yeah.
You know, and that's tricky to, you know, like that's a whole different world. Like there also is that other thing where we get to have some time. Like the first lockdown, our baby, her name's Hinemaya, and she was tiny, like I think 4-5 months old. And so we got to have that time, both parents at home, have that time with her. And it's the same now, you know. We get to be home with her, and I'm learning to try and read her what she's trying to tell me without words, which is a really good exercise.
Yeah.
Really good theatrical exercise, I think, for people is how to storytell, how to communicate without words. But yeah, I mean, it has its challenges, but it also is like, I keep telling myself, I mean, all the pandemic is like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in a war. My family is safe. My baby is safe.
Yeah.
If it means we have to do so many million activities during the day to keep her occupied, then that's the thing.
Absolutely.
But also very fortunate that we get to spend some time with her.
Absolutely. Has she seen you perform and been to performances and stuff?
She has, and she Mum always seems to snap them on, you know, video. But any other news articles on TV or any ads, she'll Papa. But she actually and has been since she was younger, but she actually prefers the sound of her mother's voice over mine, which is great. I do think it's amazing because, you know, like, have that connection with your daughter. But I'm also like, babe, come on, like, people pay your dad to, you're getting free, like, you're getting a free gig, sis. Like, come on.
Yeah, I'll just stop and you'll just have to pay me for it.
Yeah, and mum has a lovely voice.
Yeah.
But it does hurt you, right? As a singer, to go, oh, your daughter doesn't. She likes it. But she would prefer to hear
mum. Yeah,
she loves dancing and all that sort of stuff. So just gonna try and get an indication on her of how far in like showbiz she.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
I need to. Yeah. How much of a Mama Rose do I have to be to her? But I might put her in piano lessons because I always need a accompanist.
Free work.
The whole family. Yeah, totally. And the whole family can go on the road.
Yeah. Cool. So moving into the last part, which is that being that this podcast is called Broadway and Other Kiwi Dreams, based around performing as a Kiwi. My question to you is, what would be your Kiwi dream?
Totally. I think for me, even before becoming a papa, before coming back, you know, to Aotearoa, for a number of years, even before the pandemic, number of years, my goal, and it hasn't been a goal that I've set out loud, but my goal is going, how far can I push and how far can I reach? And that's internationally, you know, nationally and internationally. It's like, how far can I go and how far can my work go? That has been my goal, and that still is my goal, I think. But it becomes, there's some like sub clauses now, you know, like that pertain to my overall purpose as an artist. For an example, was those two worlds of mine being woven back together again, and that sort of stuff. So where I wanted to like push my work internationally, now I want to push my work internationally, but also push the kaupapa. That's what's at the helm, is like push those kaupapa internationally. Yeah, I'd be stoked to be able to continue pushing me as a performer, but mostly my work on an international level. Yeah, it started some kind of thing before the world got sick. But I would like to continue that. That would be cool, because I think I'd like my daughter to. Again, we're going back into Papa podcast here, but I'd like my daughter to, you know, oh, my dad reached as far as he could. And it doesn't mean that, like, you know, like, doesn't mean that I have to hit Broadway or hit West End. But I'd really love it for her to go, oh, he pushed as far as he could.
Yeah.
And there's merit in that, as opposed to go, my dad hit Broadway. You know, that's still amazing.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, it's like, but I think there's also, in terms of encouragement to her, my dad pushed as far as he could. But also, like, at the moment is like, the kaupapa of my work is like questioning our stance as Māori race relations internationally and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'd like to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Keep pushing.
Keep pushing.
Keep pushing. I remember distinctly, and I'm going to share this, but like I remember distinctly sitting in a note session with Des McAnuff. He's got 2 Tonys, I think. He might have more. Sorry, Des. And I remember sitting here and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to take notes from a Tony award-winning director. But remembering how succinct his notes were and the way he delivered them. And I'm like, there's no reason why we can't have that approach here in Aotearoa.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what else are we missing? Not saying that we're in deficit here in Aotearoa. Man, we got some killer makers and some killer leaders in the arts.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, if I had, I just remember being in that room with him and it zinging. And I've only had a couple of those zinging moments in my life. And I'm like, yes. I remember going home and writing about it, but like zinging. And I was like, that's from somebody who's not based near us. I was like, so part of the reaching internationally is kind of getting more of those experiences because they will in turn benefit us.
Yeah.
With the idea of reaching, I'm not seeking just for me, I think is supposed to be what I want to say. And it's not trying to be like, oh, here's Captain Modest turning up again to be like, it's for people. But it 100% is, I think, you know, like it you have to reach and benefit for everybody. Yeah. You know, so it can be like, come back and be like, you know how you go to your cousin's house and you go, hey, bro, they did this and this and this. Let's try and do that at home. That's basically what I'd be keen to do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rutene, for coming on the podcast. And thank you, listener, for listening. And we'll talk at you next time with another amazing guest.
Kia ora, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. What an episode. I am so excited to be back. You can learn more about Rutene and what he's got coming up on Facebook at rSpoonerNZ. If you're listening to this around the release of this episode, which is the 25th of March, Rutene is opening a show tonight at the Court Theatre, and it runs until the 22nd of April. It is a show called Be Like Billy, which Rutene himself created about one of his idols, Billy T. James. So get along to that if you can. 25th of March till the 22nd of April. Thank you for listening to the podcast. This is called Broadway and Other Kiwi Dreams. It was hosted, edited, and produced by me, James Shearer. You can follow me socially at Kiwi Dreams Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And feel free to share this episode with a friend who you think might enjoy it. Have a great day, and I'll talk at you next time on Broadway and Other Kiwi Dreams.